This episode is made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's absolute #1 online art school. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. I am deep in the annals of your mind. I am deep in the annals of your... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours podcast, where your host, I'm Vincent, a background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Now today we're going to talk about why we want content creators to be politically neutral.
But before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, jingle, touch all our bells and buttons over there.
Over there is a button of a little hand.
Please.
I want you to touch the little hand. Please and thank you. Take your mouse and touch that little hand.
He was, woohoo!
Woohoo! Hey, how you doing, man? It's almost summertime. Hopefully you're doing well. How do they look?
They look great. You look great.
No, really, how do they look at them? Look at them. Did you even look at them?
My eyes look you up and down, and I think you look great.
Okay, I think so too. My eyes are looking all around.
Okay.
Why are we talking about this topic, Chan?
Because I randomly asked you, when did movies get too politically correct for you? Because, I don't know, I was just thinking about it, because we did an episode on how things are swinging back the other way, and I really, really enjoy it, because it's not swinging all the way back the other way, but it's just neutral. It's just going back to neutrality, which is appreciated. And I was just wondering, like, when did I realize what was happening, and when did it become too much? So I asked you.
Yeah, you asked me as we were leaving the Korean market after getting Asian foods.
Yes.
And I was thinking, like, I didn't think right away when 2016 happened and Ghostbusters happened that, like, this was going to be a problem. I was like, oh, this is just like a phase.
Yeah.
How long it'll
like
last.
a movie out of...
This is just one movie out of however many movies that come out. And then it started to get worse and worse and worse. Where, like, you'd get a lot of movies that were about these characters that, like, go through the... Like for example, Star Wars. They go through an entire adventure and things happen and it doesn't feel deserved at all.
It just feels like there's some kind of woke progressive agenda behind what I just wanted to, like, this thing to entertain me.
Have a good time.
Yeah. And I just felt like, really, like, as someone who, well, we'll talk about what we were at the time, but what movie was it that you finally made you go like, oh, it's official, like, it's too much.
It's late. I think in 2019, everyone was hyping Us. The Jordan Peele movie, Us.
Yes.
Like, they were overhyping Us, and I didn't think much of it. But then, like, when I watched it, I was like, this movie, I don't think it's that good. I saw the twist coming in the first 5 minutes of the movie. I was like, oh, I bet they switched. And at the end, it was like, oh, they switched. Like, yeah, that's what I thought they did. But then it tried to tell this whole story about, like, I don't know, the haves and the have-nots. And, like,
yes.
And
and Us stands also for U.S.
The U.S. Oh my God. That's high concept entertainment coming from Hollywood. Oh my God.
Oh, so smart.
Yeah, oh, so smart. And then I was just like, oh, this is, like, not even, this is so, I liked Get Out. I thought that was fine.
Yes.
Us was like, come on, this isn't that good.
Yeah.
Come on. And then I kept thinking, like, okay, there's a pattern here now. There are these movies coming out. They're getting overhyped or over-celebrated or highly rated in Rotten Tomatoes or these top critics from who knows where are giving them all sorts of great scores. And then you watch them and you're just like, this is
awful.
It's awful.
It's the opposite of what the score should be.
And then I think that's just like, what is this? And I could only think that there's, like, a bias here that everyone's, like, really eating up.
Right.
There's some Kool-Aid here that everyone's drinking.
At first, I was gonna say Ghostbusters 2016. So I would have said in 2016 it got too much. But then I really thought about it and I was like, no, I don't think that was the year. Because we went and looked back at the list of movies, 2016's list of movies, 2017, 2018, and so on. And looking at that list, I was like, no, 2016 had some great movies. And I don't think I thought that at the time. I thought Ghostbusters was just, I don't know, in Hollywood you get a few crazies and you get the normals, which like we're already used to at that point, and I was like, it's just a dumb movie out of like 20. But then like it does get progressively worse year to year, but like every single year there was a movie that I felt like I could watch without without cringing and just being like, why is everything awful? Until 2019, which is the same year Us came out. And I think it's the year Captain Marvel came out. And because the next movie that I can remember off the top of my head being like, yeah, no. And it's because we didn't go and watch that movie, though that was the first Marvel movie we didn't go to watch in theaters in like since the beginning.
I haven't seen it. Still haven't seen it.
Yeah. I think I watched some of it. I don't know how, but
maybe at a flight.
Maybe, yeah.
In Dallas or something.
And seeing the list of movies that year, it was bad. I think that truly was the year that it became too much for even us at the time. Other movies would be like Long Shot.
Oh, there's a whole list of movies.
Yes.
Where they try to like, just like, really show that these are strong female characters out on an adventure who don't need no man.
Yes.
Like, I gotcha.
Yeah,
loud and clear.
So and that like worse is when they combine like sex and race. So it's like a strong, not white person who is also a woman. Like it's all the buzzwords all in one character in one movie. So things like Little Woman, Kitchen, which
what's Kitchen?
It was like 3 actresses. I think one was like Melissa McCarthy and like two other ones I forget. But
I think was it the lady from Handmaid's Tale?
Yes. They're
Moss,
like
Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah, Elizabeth Moss
yeah.
And one other, and they are like stay-at-home wives or something, and then they're like, women's place are just in the kitchen, and then and then they have guns and they like kill people with knives and stuff, and I was just like, what is this? What is this? And then there's Bombshell. And Hustlers. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's the J-Lo movie with the other lady from Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah. I don't think her career
after that moment.
After this movie
went
anywhere.
Yeah. And she was just having such a moment too from Crazy Rich Asians, and then she was like in everything for like a hot second, and then that was the movie. I was like, no. She had like a weird haircut, and like it was just bad. It was just really so bad. And it's
like about roofing dudes and taking their money.
Yes, which I was like, oh, what is this? And then there's like Dark Phoenix, which I was so excited for, but it wasn't good. So like it was tragically bad. Everyone was so mad at it that I was like, no. And then movies that were not doing this were like heavily criticized.
People shout on them.
Yeah, which one of the only movies I liked that year was Joker. And
oh my god, remember everything with the Joker?
Yeah.
Just like, it's about what do you call it? Involuntarily incel people. I was like, it's about the incel peoples. And then like, it got like review bombed or something like that.
Yeah.
And all that shit. I was like,
people
oh my
were
god.
Like trying to cancel it before it even came out.
And it's like, this is good cinema, man.
Yeah.
This ain't bad, dude. This is pretty good. It's a pretty good movie.
I was very impressed by that
Very good movie.
I was very happy with that movie. And
some Cassavetes in there.
Yeah.
Got some Scorsese in there.
Yeah.
Woo!
It was such a good movie, and I was so upset to see people not only poo-poo it at the Academy for being like, a comic book movie, but also to be like it's a white male incel movie, and I'm like, no, it's a lot more than that. And then
it's about all the lonely people.
Yes.
Where do they? Oh, I don't want to get a copyright strike.
And then I don't. Tarantino always gets backlash just for being Tarantino.
Just for existing.
Yeah. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood also came out that year. And I remember some of the influencers that I liked watching at the time were just took a big fat shit on him for having feet.
What's wrong with you, man?
He's just really into it. Like, come on.
Leave him alone.
Leave. People have their kinks, okay? Don't kink shame him.
Come on.
And it's just a thing. It's always been a thing. And it's really just. So, I just looking at the list of 2019 movies gave me like flashbacks of that era and how frustrated I was, and I think that was truly the year we both kind of like had enough.
We stopped watching movies
for a while.
Yeah, that year, and then I think the beginning of 2020 is when COVID happened, but like entire year of 2019 was such a disappointment. I think it was the least amount of times we went to the movie theater.
Yes.
I do remember seeing Joker in theater, but then not much else.
Yeah. At the exact same time, 2019, I was working at Disney. And we all know now, after the don't say gay stuff happening, what kind of crazies I was working with.
Don't believe her. She's lying. There's all sorts of experiences. All sorts.
So, and I was having my weird late 20s quarter life crisis of like, I want to change careers because of not only like literally everything we just discussed, but also just like my own personal wants and needs. But I was just like, oh my god, I just can't. Like I am going crazy here. Like I'm pretty sure anyone in my position too like would also just be like, man, the one thing that takes me out of this awful existence, this awful reality that I have to, the suffering of life, is movies. And even that is just telling me that like you suck. And then at work they're telling me you suck. It's just awful. It's just not a good time. And it led us to this thesis of this podcast that we've been harping on for a while, that we believe that content with political agendas main priority is not to make good quality art or content. It's to tell people how to think and live and feel, and it's mostly to finger wag and moralize. It's like and I don't like that, because if your main priority is to moralize and to finger wag and it's not on art, then the art suffers. Like I don't feel like your headspace is in the right place when you're making the art. So like it's already hard enough to get like a good thing, a good drawing, a good video, a good movie, or whatever. It's hard enough to just do that. But when you're also adding like, but my mission for this is to moralize, you're not thinking about, is the shots great? Or is the story good? Are the characters not annoying? Like you're thinking about like, clearly everything else is just on, I'm trying to tell people how they suck.
And this is why. This is why you suck.
Yes.
This is why you suck.
Yes.
Vote for me.
Yes, basically. Vote for my party.
Yeah.
And so I really got really frustrated with that. But fairly recently, as things are like moving back the other way, I see the same exact problem from the other side. So I was pretty excited to see that the Daily Wire was going to try their hand at making movies, because I thought the idea of having any kind of new production studio come out with legitimate amounts of funding,
that's not a part of Hollywood.
Yeah, the machine.
It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Man, it'd be so cool if Elon Musk opened a movie studio. Man, let's go, Elon Musk. Hire Janet.
Oh God.
Come on, Elon Musk.
And on top of that, someone like Tim Pool, who we really like watching and to get news and updates on what's going on in the world, he, in my opinion, probably a lot of people's opinion, used to be what they would call a milquetoast fence sitter. But ever since, I feel like he's been focusing on trying to change culture, and he's very jealous of the Daily Wire making movies and TV shows and culture. He's been wanting to do that, and I have a problem with the way he talks about going about doing it. I have a problem with the way both of them the way they talk about it. And I want them to correct me if I am wrong. But to me, it sounds like the way Tim talks, that he wants to tell people how to think and feel and live too. And I was never about that at all. And I have a huge problem.
What makes you think
with
that?
The way he words it, he's like, we need to change culture. We need to show
Rising
people
tide.
how like we are cool. And we need to like tell them that like, yeah, that being like that is not okay, and you should be more like us. And I'm just like, I don't want my content to manipulate me like that necessarily.
I just want to feel like when I was 4 years old and I saw Jurassic Park for the first time. That's all I kind of really want. I don't really want you to tell me how I should live my life or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even like feel like I'm a part of a movement.
Yes.
I want to experience good art. That's it. And it's that simple. And I want like talented, passionate people to make these things, and that's it. And it seems so simple. I feel like we said it a long time ago. Like you can only be a talking head on the internet for so long.
Yes.
Until you hit a wall and you're like, I'm only talking to the people who agree with me. What is one to do now? I don't know, make some piece of art so that like, I don't know,
they can consume something.
Yeah. And I'm thinking now that like, oh, this is great that like this is more of a mainstream idea now. But I'm thinking like, I worry now that like people are just going to use art like a club like it has been in the movies lately.
Right, yeah.
And I just don't like, I feel like people mistake what we said for like, you know, we need to like use art to fight and beat people with. I just want to experience good art.
Yeah.
Is that like lame to say? Is that like weird? Is that stupid to say? Because like I really, that's all I really want.
You want
know
to
what I
be
mean?
swept up in all those emotions of like feel thrilled and happy and touched and sad and all these things. Not necessarily to be like, think and behave like this. Like I don't know about you, but I've hated everyone who's ever tried to do that to me. Which is why like Daily Wire did this thing recently, where they got like dropped by Harry's razors
Right.
a while ago.
And one of their dudes, Jeremy Boring, did like this epic like, I own you. We opened our own like shaving subscription company now. I personally thought it was pretty dope. I like seeing people, you know,
Yeah, you were excited.
like get creative. I like creativity. That's fun.
You like when people are creative with their pettiness.
Yeah, that's kind of fun to watch. Look, that coming after like all that bullshit about like you shouldn't be bludgeoning people with art. But like, I don't know. And the stupid boy in me goes like, they fucking got caught. Fucking Harry's. But like, I understand what you're saying though. Because when they said like, what's their new slogan that like
they made a commercial that was a very like tongue-in-cheek memeable commercial for Jeremy's razors, where they say something like, they hate you, so give your money to us instead. Something
Stop
like that.
giving money to companies that hate you.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And I heard this story.
I like that sentiment. It's a pretty good sentiment.
I heard that story and I was like, you hate me too.
Oh.
Like, I don't, like, this is ridiculous. Like, don't pretend to be any different than the other side. Like, at the end of the day, you just want my money. Like, just, it's fine. You want to sell me razors? That's fine. Stop telling me the other side hates me because you hate me too. Like, it's not, because I felt like, okay, especially where I'm at in life now, I'm like, okay, I remember what conservatives used to be like growing up.
Yeah, me too.
They're annoying.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share a kind of personal story about why I have a bias towards conservatives and Christians, specifically Catholics, that I am actively working to like against. But like when I was younger, I was bullied a lot. And in middle school, in this one class, I was being sexually harassed by this boy that sat next to me. And no matter how much I would tell him no and stop, very loudly and physically, he would not. And there were a bunch of other students in this class. Some were my friends. This one girl, I invited her to my birthday party later on, and her mom comes up to my mom and described the situation in like you shouldn't let your daughter let boys do that to her. Basically victim blaming I was 11 at the time, an 11-year-old girl, and and then my mom is like confused because like why would I tell anybody of what happened here, and especially my parents. And my mom came up to me and was like so and so's mom came up to me and told me these things, and like what's going on, what's happening, and like very concerned. And I got very embarrassed and very angry because all of my life, every single time I've ever been bullied, people were there who just watched it happen and did nothing. So like during this instance, instead of my friend maybe speaking up and saying something and doing something about it, she told her mom
Gossip, basically.
Gossip about what was happening to me. And she was very, very, very Catholic. And it was very much the like, your daughter's a slut. And I was 11. And I like this bittersweet memory happened where one of my childhood friends, we weren't like close at the time. By then we were like going through puberty. And he even though we didn't talk anymore and we were like in completely different crowds, I was like a nerd. I was made fun of because I was like a weeb. And he was more like a Winksta type. So like he was trying to very much to like be accepted and be popular and be hard. He stuck up for me. Like he almost like got into a fight with this boy. So like I think about that, I'm like, okay, humans aren't all they don't all suck. But I like this moment in time colored my opinion, and there are other moments too, don't get me wrong, awful things happening between me and like other people trying to like convert me and stuff, but like I had like a huge disdain towards conservatives and Christians because I thought you're so full of shit, man. You're just so morally superior, aren't you? And then I was like, it took until college where I had a gay instructor who was also kind of religious, where I made like a snide comment about Christians and Christianity, thinking that like he would be like all for it. Because he's gay, I didn't realize I didn't realize gay people could also be Christians or conservative. And he was like you don't understand anything. Like he basically scolded me a little bit gently about like you don't know what you're talking about and you shouldn't be so quick to judge like stuff like that. And at that point I was like, you know what, you're right. Like I never read the Bible. I don't know anything about that stuff, and he made me realize like if he could be accepting and like understanding about that, like I'm just a child. I'm dumb. So having all these experiences, having Jeremy tell me they hate you, give us your money. I'm like, you hate me too. Come on, your people are the ones that called me an 11-year-old a slut. So like, no. So it's weird to me that like I'm finally in this position where like people online are like calling me alt-right when like this is my lived experience, and I'm just like gross. But also the Tim Pool keeps talking about like we should make content like
Star Trek.
Star Trek. And you explain the way he thinks about it.
I don't know. He just says all the time that like Gene Roddenberry, like oh, like his stories, yeah, they were like pointing us towards or whatever direction. I hope not strawmanning what he says, but I just like it's something like that.
Yeah, he's like, oh, he's really telling us how to live and what's right and what's wrong.
But I think Gene was probably telling good stories.
Yes.
I think that was it. I think
yes.
that was all
he was trying to do.
And then if his like vision for what we as humans or species us as a whatever could achieve, well then that's cool. But then for the most part, I'm sure, because I'm not a big Star Trek fan. I'm a big Twilight Zone fan, big Rod Serling fan. Mm-hmm. But like I don't think Rod Serling was like overtly trying to tell people, oh yeah, you should be against the war. Oh, you should do this or you should do that. They just tell stories and have these characters go through different scenarios that maybe reflect what happens, like Law and Order or NCIS, that reflects what happens in like the news or like in everyday society. But it's not like telling me what I should think or how I should feel about a situation.
Yeah, and
I feel like it should just only be concerned about telling a good story,
right?
And make me feel like life. What is that thing that David Mamet says? That like takes me out of the suffering of life, just for a moment,
yeah, just for a little,
just for
bit.
a second.
Because when I think about the way people write scripts, I don't think they necessarily come at it with like a thesis in mind and like a point that they're trying to get across. I think they sometimes have like scenarios in mind that they want to like depict, and then they have characters that they want to usually do really bad things to. So like it's especially when we were writing our own script for our skit, I was like, yes, I'm trying to like inject satire and to show the folly of man and hubris and ego and like the inner workings of interpersonal dynamics in the workplace and stuff. But I'm not thinking about that when I'm writing the script. I was like, this person needs to do this awful thing to this other person,
and I want these two to meet,
yes.
And then what are they gonna say, and then this person's gonna enter, and that's gonna make everything really complicated.
Yeah. we're not thinking like, if we did, I don't like, our goal was to like make ourselves laugh, so to make people laugh and to get across certain like relationship dynamics. What does this say about this person when they do this, and what does it say about this person and when they do this, and what does it say about the whole relationship? And I'm thinking about that stuff, which is why I don't think most people who are like good at script writing and good at TV writing, I don't think they're thinking about like, I'm gonna tell people how to live.
This is what it feels like. It feels like just by practicing, we've created characters that we like, even bond with. You know how like writers who write novels or even scripts, like Tarantino talks about his characters, they feel like you know them. Mm-hmm. We've invented these characters, and like for the most part, it's just like, I want to know what would happen if this character who's super naive meets this character who's like really mean, mm-hmm. and like has been in this industry for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know. That's the fun part. The best part is like, I don't even know what will happen, and like it's through writing and through acting it out, I discover like, oh yeah, that's exactly how that would go down. And like, that's the joy of making art for me. It's not like, I feel like people think art making is in reverse. Like, there is a goal, there is a message I'm going to tell people, and I'm going to use art as an apparatus to tell people that this is how they should think or feel or whatever. I think people who make art, they're just as surprised by what they've made.
Yes.
Through the discovery of making the art as the person consuming the art.
Yes.
And I feel like that is, to me, what like good art feels like, and the kind of stuff that I feel like should be celebrated.
Right. So to define what our opinions of what good storytelling is, I know a lot of film buffs are probably going to get mad. Like, there is no art is subjective, and there is no good. That's your definition. And yes, it's our definition of what we think good storytelling is, and I think you have to look at like the oldest and most successful stories that have lasted the test of time, and those are all stories about people, just humanity, and which means anybody can relate to it, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what country you come from. Even everybody understands a love story. Everybody understands a hero's journey story. Everyone understands stories about feeling sad and losing someone, or what. Like, to make it like a, I would say political movies are like a genre. It's not like I don't think it's something you could like maybe be a part of a movie, but it's not required for in fact I think it holds you back depending on the type of story you want to tell. And I also think that the best stories that I like are when they leave the moral of the story up to interpretation, up for the audience. Depending on where you're viewing a movie and where you are in life, your point of view, you will probably have a different takeaway from a movie, a really good movie, than like someone else. Or you might notice something someone else didn't notice, and it could both be valid. Your opinions. Like, there's so many video essays on Kubrick movies because it can be about anything you want it to be. A lot of the times. If you think
Doctor Strangelove was about unicorns, if you write a convincing enough paper with a convincing enough thesis, people probably buy it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It could be about anything.
And I think the reason why those type of movies tend to be good is because the characters are not two-dimensional.
Talk about 2001 real quick.
Okay, so I think we talked about
this.
We did,
but before. Let's do it again. It's fun.
Okay, so I avoided watching 2001 Odyssey for the longest time. I actually avoided getting into Kubrick for the longest time because snobby people made it really hard for me to even begin. Because
Kubrick's like Radiohead in the film world. It's like, Radiohead's great, but like, my God, Radiohead fans, the worst. The worst.
Kubrick fans are the same.
Yeah, Kubrick fans are the worst.
For sure. So I think there are a lot of contrarians who want to be like, Kubrick's overrated, and because
oh no, Kubrick's not overrated.
Yeah, no,
Kubrick's
it's just
really
the fans are a lot.
Yeah.
So I finally get to watching 2001 Odyssey, and I'm thinking it's like, because of what I heard of it at the time, where that like, oh, it's genius, it's so experimental, it's so profound, and intelligent, it's saying so much. So I was preparing myself for something very serious, very art house, and very
avant-garde,
very snooty. So I watch it, and halfway into the movie, I'm like, this is a giant satire movie, isn't it? This is. I like Kubrick. That was I don't know if that was the movie, but like as I'm like watching all these Kubrick movies,
we watched Strangelove before.
Yeah.
And then it was and then we watched 2001, and then I think you got a flavor for what we think Kubrick's dark sense of humor is.
Yes. And then I saw 2001, and I was like, he is laughing at humanity in this movie. Like, and I realized like, oh, how tragic. Because then after, I was so fascinated because of what I thought it was and what everyone said it was versus what it actually was in my eyes. We went and listened to interviews that he did, or saw either written transcripts of it or something, of him talking about 2001. And he specifically said, I don't know, Strangelove was a lot more intellectually profound movie than 2001. He was very baffled and like borderline like amused that people took 2001 as seriously as they did. And I was like, yeah, like, so I'm not wrong. I do not believe I'm wrong. I believe everyone else is wrong. But when I saw 2001, it's making fun of humanity and how humans think we're like so advanced. We're so like egotistical and like full of ourselves. And he's just saying all of that just in the opening with the apes. And I thought it was really, really amusing that what happened in real life too, that everyone was like, oh my god, this is like an amazing work of art. I just
this is one giant step for us as humans.
Yes,
This is
exactly.
such a profound. This is like a wonder of the world. It's like Stonehenge, man.
After I saw the interview with Kubrick about that, I was like, he was laughing at every single one of you who were like reviewing this movie, like, oh my god, best movie ever. I have been listening to Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. It is a fantastic philosophy book. I really seem to relate to this guy. I don't know what that says about me, but if you want to get your philosophy on, head over to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast, where you will get one free audiobook. That's audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast. But yes, I think movies that don't tell you exactly, they let you interpret what the movie means. The characters are not two-dimensional. They're not one note. You don't obviously know all the time if a character is the protagonist and this character is the villain. I think some of the coolest movies are when they get you to empathize with the main character who happens to be a very, very awful human being. Like Breaking Bad.
There will be blood.
Yeah. Or like the unreliable narrator type stuff and like that. Those are really cool.
Fight Club.
Whereas like a huge problem I had with the Run, Hide, Fight movie, Daily Wire's first movie, which I learned after the fact. They just distributed it. They didn't make it. That movie, I felt so like the villains are like comically villainous, and the protagonist is comically can do no wrong, and I just felt like I can't relate. Sorry, I can't relate. Like when a protagonist has absolutely nothing wrong with her or him, it just feels like, oh, so you're just like a god. So you're just like,
you can do no wrong.
A Jesus figure. Like I unless you're literally a Jesus figure, you're supposed to be in the movie. Like I don't like that. And I think those type of movies, absolute best type of movies, challenge you to think. I don't think much about a lot of Hollywood blockbuster movies where I come out going like, yeah, that was fun, that was great, and then I forget it in 2 seconds because I don't think about it. You told me what to think. You told me that this movie, I'm supposed to root for this guy, then yay, they live happily ever after. What am I supposed to think about at the end of that? Like I like movies that like I think about it long term. I linger on it. They basically tell you to think, not what to think.
Rashomon.
Yes.
Rashomon. We watched Rashomon on Criterion because it was like, oh yeah, this is like one of the greatest achievements in cinema ever. You know how like Criterion likes to like hype up whatever movies they have. So we were watching Rashomon and we were like, hey, wait a second. It seems like this is a lot similar to a movie we saw recently.
Yeah.
And it was basically The Last Duel.
Yes.
And I guess like the idea of The Last Duel is to do like some sort of medieval Rashomon.
Yes.
And watching Rashomon though, I think it was a lot more complex with its characters.
Right.
Instead of having characters that could do no wrong, and it's obvious that like The Last Duel was trying to be subtle and trying to have nuance, whereas I feel like Rashomon really had nuance of like, yes, there's sometimes people who are super like machismo on the outside but are total wimps on the inside. There are some women who like are totally like they could do no wrong on the outside but are super manipulative on the inside. Right. And like just things aren't as they seem sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's life for you.
Yes.
And that's what Rashomon like really imparted with me. And I didn't feel like it was trying to like say anything other than like, man, it ain't life weird.
Yes.
Like people can be
awful.
All sorts.
Yeah.
And people can be people, and the story isn't exactly like what you'd expect it to be. And people have their biases and how they view stories and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like What was the problem with The Last Duel, you think?
So The Last Duel, so to give a brief synopsis of both movies, it's basically a he said, she said, witness said story.
Right. So someone's on trial typically, or
Yes.
you're seeing a story through someone's perspective, but then immediately you see it from another person's perspective, but then the same exact scene's played out,
Yes.
but through this person's perspective.
Yes, and if you've ever played like Phoenix Wright, it's basically a Phoenix Wright case.
It's a typical TV trope too. You see it in TV, The Simpsons, all sorts of things.
So, in Rashomon, there is a bandit, a samurai, and his wife. So it's a he said, she said, witness story. And then in Last Duel, it's a husband, a wife, and a
The husband's
attacker.
best friend.
Attacker/best friend.
Yeah.
In like the medieval times, basically. So in like the kingly era.
And they jousted
Yeah.
on horses.
So instead of feudal Japan, it's a feudal Europe.
Medieval.
Yeah,
It's
medieval.
times.
So it's basically the same movie, except one was directed by Ridley Scott like last year or something like that.
Yeah. And one's like from, I don't know, was it like
the
50s or 60s?
Yeah, in Japan.
In Japan. That long ago.
Except if Rashomon is about everyone has their own bias and story. And you, at the end of the movie, you don't know who to believe. Not really. And the point of the movie is somewhere like humanity will be humanity. And whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, he kind of actually leaves it up to you to decide. Because of the ending. It was a little weird, but like, I appreciate it. And then The Last Duel is very definitive. It's very much believe all women. And I felt like even when the movie ended, I felt good in that, like, oh, happily ever after for not the attacker. But I felt something missing. And when I saw Rashomon, I was like, man,
Ridley Scott, come on, man.
I thought you were original. Turns out there are no original ideas.
Man.
I'm just dumb and not educated. And I saw.
See, this is how these like big Hollywood directors get a rise on us people. They just like go to world cinema and then like
they steal ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Not changing them much whatsoever, and then they go like, bloop, that's mine. I did that. I'm a genius. I felt not only that I was like duped, but I also felt like I like this story better because the only difference is that the woman in Rashomon is not infallible. She's not this weak, I'm the victim character. She plays one in her own story, but in a natural he said, she said thing, you don't know. Is this a manipulative person just doing it just to like be awful and to like falsely accuse someone, or is she genuinely a victim? Like it becomes very, 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 especially when there's a non-biased witness involved, like who is telling the truth? Everyone, including the witness who's supposedly non-biased, is not so non-biased after all. Whereas The Last Duel, they treated the woman's perspective 100% as truth. And I was like, the only reason why they would do that is because of the political climate of today.
And those stories thrive on like there's no one version that feels like it's the most true.
Yeah.
You know? But in The Last Duel, at the end, the third version was just like, oh yeah, this is really what happened.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay then. Well, okay then.
I think that
Happily ever, like you said, happily ever after
Yeah.
that. Like has a nice bow tie on everything.
I think the message that Rashomon told was so much more impactful and memorable for me. And it said a lot more truth about humanity to me. And it was much more insightful than the other point, which is it devolved that idea into just believe all women. And I felt like that's such a bastardization of this movie. I'm sorry. I did not appreciate that, and I just was like, "Huh, that in a nutshell is what I feel about when people are trying to take what I think would have been a great movie. The Last Duel would have been it is a pretty good, decent movie. It just
Great performances, yeah.
made it a little bit less memorable and impactful for me when I can see your political agenda working behind the
or
scenes.
your bias,
there.
period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, finally,
Oh.
I want to share how we finally got to this position. And we can't do so without sharing our political journey. Finally, we're going to reveal to our audience our political opinions for once and for all. Well, it might change, but you know. And I would say I was a super liberal progressive when I was younger.
What made you a super liberal progressive?
I think living in California.
Oh.
In high school, I remember it was probably the first time I was ever even remotely politically aware. Meaning, the only reason why I was politically aware was because Obama was running for president and everyone was saying, vote for him. He's going to be our first black president. Isn't that so cool? And he is so cool. He's so suave. Look at him in interviews and stuff. So my political opinion was I had none other than I just followed along with whatever the adults at the time around me were saying. I had a very progressive liberal history teacher and
In middle school or what? In high school?
in high school, yeah. And generally everyone around me that were adults who I thought knew better, because at that age you think adults know things. They're infallible in a way. I just thought,
Surely us, the kid,
Yeah.
us
I don't
children,
know anything.
and yeah, we don't know anything.
clearly you watch more news than I do.
Yeah.
I watch cartoons. I watch anime.
Sailor Moon.
Yeah. So that was my where I started. Where did you start?
I went to a Catholic school, and
Yes.
I'm sure you could imagine what the overarching political ideology is there.
Yeah.
And then, like, through that, you become a little, like, as you reach your teenage years, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm rebellious,
Yes.
man. Fuck all that shit, man. I don't like all that stuff, man.
Right.
I think gay people should be, like, happy and stuff,
Yeah.
man. Like, it's 2002, gay people should be happy, and we should all, like, be able to buy pot from McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
That type of thing.
Basically, yeah.
But then, like, as you get, and then in college, I met, like, I think I mentioned this too in a previous podcast, that, like, it was my first time meeting people who weren't in that, like, environment. There were so many other people. Met a Buddhist, met so many atheists, met Jewish people, like everyone, like people, like Hindu, like everything. And it's just like, you know, people all around are just trying to live.
Yes.
And I think that was what I took away from college. But, like, I wasn't, like, I didn't think much about politics. I was very anti-war, because I thought that was really popular at the time too.
Yes.
If you were listening to, like, System of a Down or Green Day, all those, like, there was like a alternative rock anti-war corporate movement
Yes.
that was happening, like,
Yes.
around that time, and I was, like, all for it. And yeah, I got, like for me it was more of, like, the media, but for you it was more of, like, your environment, because like I didn't have any, like, liberal teachers. I don't think so.
Oh, I had some liberal teachers.
I've never had that until I went to art center. But then, like, for me, I didn't feel like it was much different. It was just, like, you know, it was like the same type of thing for the other side. And, like, the same, all I had to do was just say what they wanted to hear, and everything would be honky-dory. So that's what I did.
You were a lot more like, I'm just trying to
I'm just trying to live, dude.
Yeah, like, I'm trying not to fail out of this class.
I remember, like, I was at, like, a small animation studio when then Trump won, and, like, this was, like, my first job, you know, and it took me, like, a year, actually, like, a year after being in theme park design, to be like I want to try to break into cartoons. I want to do cartoons instead of, like, designing
parks.
theme parks
Yeah.
or whatever. And I was like, this was like my first job, and then Trump just won, and I was tasked to do this like turnaround. I know I'm a background designer. Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Well, you're not doing that. Yeah.
But then like totally, like I was getting notes from my art director, and totally like out of nowhere, like what he was like, what do you think about this stuff? And I was like, I don't
I don't know.
think much of it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, whatever. And then he's like, well, that's what's wrong with your generation. And all that stuff.
Oh God.
And then I was just like, I remember frustratedly going like, you know what, man, I just graduated. I'm just trying to like work. I just graduated. This is what I have always wanted to do. I'm trying to do it now. I said something like that. And then he was like, you're right. I'm sorry. That's really unfair. That's really unfair. And I chalked it up to like, people were really emotional in that time. I understand that I don't understand anything.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm trying to play the movie in my fucking head of like, I just graduated from art school. I want to work in cartoons. Give me my notes. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying
to live, man.
Make money so I can
Like,
eat.
I didn't need to get the whole like, you're the problem. You're part of the problem bullshit, dude. Like I'm not expecting that from my work, man.
I'm
Come
just-
on.
Literally, I'm just trying to draw here.
Jeez. And that was a time that I knew, like, geez, like this. People really, really like are invested in this stuff, like crazier than sports.
Yes.
It's like sports but on steroids. That's when I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But at the same time, so I mean, to definitively say, I was like a whatever the media told me want to do.
You're like a
whatever
media liberal?
whatever Radiohead and Muse and Billy Joe from Green Day, whatever the fuck they wanted to say, whatever Serge Tankian wanted to say about whatever, I'd be like, great, chop suey, cool, Intervision's cool. What is it? What do we always like to say when that song comes?
Disorder.
Disorder.
Vincent's really good at that.
I love that song. but I was like, whatever, man. Whatever the cool rock star said, I did. Which is very like typical Gen Z too. Like whatever my favorite TikToker says,
Right.
I'll fucking do whatever. And that was me. You know?
Your influencers were musicians of the time.
Yes, the rock stars of the time.
For me, actually, since I was like a child of YouTube, I actually just believed whatever Philip DeFranco said. I was like,
yeah, and that's very of the now too.
Yeah.
You were Janet, fucking Janet, hashtag ahead of her time. Oh my god.
No, I was like many other high school millennials. In college, I was
old ass motherfucker over here, like oh yeah, rock stars, man. They have so much influence. Dinosaur over here.
Yeah, sounds so, you're showing your age.
Yeah, man.
College, as most people understand it, is a hotbed for liberal ideology, and we went to art school. So imagine what it was like for us. But I didn't, because we're around other liberal progressives, I didn't think much of it.
I didn't think much of it either, man. I was just trying to live.
Yeah.
I was just trying to survive school.
Yes, that's what most of us were trying to do. Except as a woman and as an artist, I would consider myself pretty empathetic. Like at the time in high school, I was like, yeah, the gay marriage should be illegal. That sounds not right. And like, yeah, what's wrong with having a first Black American president? And like a lot of stuff. But yeah, legalize pot. If people want to like pump themselves with drugs, like
whatever,
let them. Yeah, it's not my business. So I would say I was very pro-choice and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, isn't this how it is? Like literally everyone we grew up with is like this because we grew up in California. I go to college, and even like that's when I start noticing people who are too much even for me. But I was susceptible to the guilt tripping. The like, you're not empathetic enough, you're not you're a bad person for not even noticing these problems, kind of thing. So like in one art history class, this teacher was giving us an typical art history lesson, which is like the typical like Rembrandt, Sargent,
Renaissance
period, Da Vinci, all that stuff, Michelangelo. lesson, which it's like you would probably get in any art history lesson ever. And then at the end of the class, this girl who's black goes up to him and was like, I have a problem with how Western European centric everything is. Like the fact that you don't have any world art, specifically Afro art history in your lesson is upsetting or whatever. And he was very like, oh, you're right, like not placating her. He was genuinely like, you're right, like I need to do better, I need to whatever. And I remember thinking that like it's not like he included Asian art, and that's arguably like Egyptian art, you know, like that's predates most art, period. And I don't have a problem with that because you're trying for the utility of our major and what we need to know going like after we graduate. We need to know people like Rembrandt and that kind of stuff to know how to paint backgrounds, to know what people mean when they want chiaroscuro, whatever, to make the shadows darker.
To make the new Doctor Strange movie.
Right.
We need to know these things.
Very rarely are you like tasked to like draw Egyptian hieroglyphics. So I'm like, this is a ridiculous thing. But it did guilt trip me into thinking like, oh, we do need more diversity. We do need whatever. And the same thing happened with there are a lot of you know what I'm saying.
Try again. You got this.
LGB. No, I'm not. I suck. I did it in a previous episode. You
just did. That's correct.
There's a slap yourself. Yeah, there you go. There's a fly. Yeah.
There's a fly juice on my face. No, oh God.
It's fine. It's gone.
Try it again.
LGBTQIA.
Okay.
There were a lot of LGBTQIA plus members of society at our
You need to be
school.
a better ally.
Yeah, and I just kept feeling like that's what everyone was telling me, even when I'm just like, I don't know, I thought I was. I thought I was like, perfectly. I support you. And so
it's like that. Have you seen that video of the dudes playing beer pong, and then outside they're having some sort of like BLM protest or whatever, and then the dudes are like, yeah, man, woo, yeah, we're for you, man. And there's like someone throws a rock through their window, and then they're like, what? We're on your side. We're on your side. That's like what it feels like.
And then another rock was thrown through their window.
Yeah. And but like that's what it feels like, you know. I'm just like, I'm on your side. I'm on your side. Stop that. Like, I'm all for it.
So
maybe you think I'm not enough all for it, or maybe my all for it isn't enough for you. But I'm trying to be all for it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So at that point, though, it still wasn't enough to like irk me that much. I was just mildly annoyed. But I would have considered myself a liberal progressive. I didn't know the word progressive at the time, but I would have considered myself a liberal or whatever. And then I started to work, and that's when politics really started to heat up because of Trump in 2016, and. The day Trump got elected, the weeks prior to that, everyone acted like there's no way Trump was going to win. That Hillary had it in the bag, like everyone just knew. Like they were celebrating her presidency already.
Yeah.
And I didn't think much of it because
we all assumed it happened. Okay, black president and then first woman president. I guess.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Sounds great.
Seems like it's the natural order of things. It seems like the world's setting us up for this, to be honest.
Yeah. Thing is, we're dumb millennials. We have no idea.
And we just recently graduated from art school too.
Yeah, we've not been paying attention. We have no idea Hillary's background. We didn't know anything that she did. And we're just dumb. And in a bubble. So the day Trump gets elected, it was the first year of our lives, I would say, in adulthood that we ever paid attention to politics. It was that hot that you got dumb young 20-somethings to actually pay attention to politics. So we were up at night. I remember this. We were up at night and we were tracking the results of the election. And then Trump won. And I definitely had cognitive dissonance. And I didn't believe it. at first. I was like, no, there's like so many other states reporting. How have they already called it? And then you're like, no, Trump won. And I was like,
I wasn't surprised.
well, that sucks. Well, I'm going to bed. Like, I wasn't like...
I wasn't surprised at all.
I was surprised, but I wasn't upset about it because I didn't know what that meant to people.
I wasn't upset either. I was surprised.
I was like,
because we were paying attention to all sorts of things at the time.
Yeah.
We paid it. So it was the first time we were living in an apartment all on our own, paying for rent for the first time. Doing our laundry and then doing our groceries and then, taking our cats to the vet, like doing all the responsible shit, paying our taxes, doing our taxes, all that stuff. And then, we were like, this election season, let's do it.
Let's do the adult thing.
Do the adult thing and pay attention to these debates and all this stuff. So we do. And then, we listen, we go to the gym. So I go to, I would flip on all sorts of news channels, and then to drive to work, I'd listen to all sorts of radio channels from like NPR to the Patriot, whatever. I just wanted to know everyone. Because I was just wondering, shouldn't this be... Isn't this how it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Because I it's not like anybody told me how to do this. Because I was like, when you buy something, I want to look at the negative reviews too.
I was taught how to do this.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is it wasn't my mission to be like critical about this. I was just trying to make a good decision.
Right.
So when you make a good decision buying like whatever on the internet, you want to look at like all sorts of reviews from the good ones that like obviously kiss the ass of the product too hard, but then you really want to read the bad reviews because like, is this someone just bitching and moaning about shipping, a shipping problem, or is this a legitimate concern that you should have when you buy this thing? And I was just trying to listen to everything, and then when like it would get to a point where like we'd watch one debate and then I'd listen to like one radio station and they'd say like they like saw a completely different version of reality than like the other radio station. I was like, what is going on here?
But I used to be a huge avid listener of NPR and Philip DeFranco, and but like you said, we would go to the gym, and I thought it was fun to just flip
this was just fun. This was just like a fun activity for us.
I liked watching the Kardashians on the little
Keeping Up with the Kardashians
treadmill TV, and I'd flip to like CNN and Fox News, and I'd just be really amused to see like
they think that they think that they're so dumb. You know what I mean?
So I got like my trash TV, and then I got like bullshit news media. And so that day happens. Like I don't think much of it. I go to work, and the vibe in the office was just like despondent. Everyone was sad. It was this Dreamers at the time. Everyone was quiet. Like normally people are like, there's murmuring. It's an open air office, and I'm just like, it's another average normal day at work. I'm gonna sit down and draw cartoons. And then everyone's just like, I'm like, so I to my
like that, like a lot of like
to one of the people, we sat in this like circular open air office thing, and we called them pods, and I was like, what's wrong? Like a fucking idiot. What's wrong, guys? Why is everyone so upset?
The character from the skits. Hi guys, why does everybody have a long face? Turn that frown upside down, everybody.
Ever a dense human being who does not know how to read the room. But one of my coworkers just like rips into me. He's so angry. He's like, don't you see? Trump won. And I'm like, yeah. and he's like, how are you not upset? And he's like, you know what he said? He said he wants to deport people who have immigrated here back to their countries. They've already gotten citizenship. He says he wants to deport them. People like my grandparents. And I was like, yeah, but that's not how the government works. There's checks and balances for a reason. There is Congress and the Supreme Court. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, sure, if you want to believe Trump is awful, I agree with you, but
He can't just get away with that.
Yeah,
you know
he just can't get away with it. And then he's like, but he said he would. And I was like, I have great respect for this person still. And I'm like, he's a very intelligent human being.
Emotions are high.
Emotions
were
got
high.
that high that
Emotions
this
were really
person couldn't
high.
think clearly. I was like, I don't believe
And
that
the
you
same
think
thing with my
clearly.
art director. It was just like, I remember you telling me the story when like I came back to work and then you came back from work. We're both kind of telling our stories. I don't think they happened at the same time, but
No,
like we
yeah.
both share them. And I was just thinking like as you can see, we were barely trying to figure everything
Yes.
out. But then like clearly we were like, I'm starting to learn about this stuff, but like I don't see how I could ever get that emotional
Yes.
about that. But when did you get that emotional? about that about everything, because like it got to a point where we started paying attention to all of this stuff.
Right.
We've had all sorts of phases, listening all sorts of people.
Yeah.
And then now we have our small group of people, and then probably gonna rotate to a new set of people and
Eventually.
and that's just how it works. But like ever since 2016, we're watching this like a TV show.
Right, yeah.
We didn't know we were watching the pilot to like
America, the TV show.
America the TV show.
Yeah.
That like I have been still like we are in season Ukraine.
Right, yes.
Yeah. This is the season
Ukraine.
Ukraine. This is season Ukraine right now. And I'm like, "Oh my god, like it just won't end."
Yes.
And like I'm not trivializing what's happened in Ukraine. The media is
Yes.
like the media is turning it into like a fucking circus. I think it's fucking serious
Yes.
what's happening over there, but everyone's turning it into the fucking Kardashians.
Right,
Like what's his name? Like the guy from Ukraine?
Zelensky?
Yeah, like his life is like the Kardashians. Like he's like posing in front of like stairs and shit. And I'm just like, what is this? Is this a fucking circus? This is war. God damn. If you think I'm they're fucking trivializing it. So like and I've just been completely enraptured in this story, and it's been going on like since 2016. How many years has it been? Like almost 6? Like pretty much 6.
Yes.
5 or 6 years
Yeah.
now. And this is the best TV like my favorite TV show of the time, because like Breaking Bad ended, was Game of Thrones. But then when Game of Thrones ended, America the TV show was just like my favorite.
Yes.
It was like I love this show.
Better than Euphoria.
Better than any TV show I've seen since like Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's a better TV show.
Yes.
But America the TV show is like
Amazing.
it's like wild and unpredictable.
Yes, it's high stakes because
Because it actually affects us.
Yeah. So 2016 to 2020, things just we get more. I guess I would say red pilled, but I don't think I really do, because I never go all the way to like I support conservatives. Like I said, I used to watch Philip DeFranco religiously every single day. I really like SourceFed. I followed even his family vlogs and stuff. I thought he was a cool person. I thought he was the everyman, and he didn't know anything about anything, and he was just trying to convey.
That was like a disclaimer he said.
Yeah, he used to say, yeah.
I don't know anything about anything, but here's
Don't
what I
listen to me.
think.
I'm just a guy that dropped out of college. Like
Yeah.
he used to say that all the time, until the people you were watching were directly in contrast to Phil, like saying the exact opposite things, and you're like, no, he got that wrong. It's about this, and then I wouldn't believe you at first. Again, I had like cognitive dissonance.
And I wasn't like trying to like say that was reality. I was coming at it from a point of confusion.
Yeah.
Of like, that's strange that DeFranco reported that, because I was coming back home and this is what the conservatives think.
Right.
And then I
yeah.
was like, ain't that weird?
Yeah.
Ain't that weird?
And I think you were watching Tim Pool.
I was starting to watch Tim
before
Pool.
Me.
Yeah.
You introduced him to me, I think.
Hey, look at this guy. He like
Yeah.
kind of like
Roasted the Twitter guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started watching him before because I started to like his reporting of the stuff that DeFranco was reporting
Yeah.
better than DeFranco was
Right,
reporting
yeah.
it. And then I was like, hey, you should watch this dude instead of DeFranco. And it took you a minute to warm up to Tim Pool, but then once you really started to sour on DeFranco,
Yes.
you were like, yeah, I'd rather listen to this.
Yeah, because like
person.
I started watching Phil in high school, and that's what I mean by like I was not necessarily I just knew in my heart that like as I grow up, I should pay attention to news, because
That's what adults do.
yeah, like that's what a person who is educated and knowledgeable about the world, you should know about these things. It's important. So I switched over to Tim eventually because rather than just quit Philip DeFranco and just not consume news, I just felt like if I feel it's important, I need to find a new source, and I just trusted Tim more. Not necessarily to get everything right or to whatever, but I just felt like, well, at least he's not actively lying.
To just
like,
report it straight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
To not like color it with your opinions and stuff.
Or omit things.
For you, it was Kavanaugh.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was nuts. Because I was like, I don't, again, it's sort of like the Rashomon thing. Like, I don't know the story. I don't know what's real. But I do know this thing that they told me that America does, which is innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
I thought that was like a thing that we did. But then to see that, like, and then the whole thing to see it become such a fucking circus too was like crazy to me. Because it was my first time, like, you know, I didn't know at the time that, like, you know, big spectacles at, you know, whichever place in Washington was normal.
Yeah.
This happens all the time. Like, there are all sorts of performative artists doing all sorts of ridiculous shit.
Right.
But this is my first time since, like, you know, paying attention to the news and I ever see it, like, full titty, like, full blast right on my face. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I can't believe, like, this is, first of all, this is such a sensitive story. Second of all, this is being played out like a trial, like, of the century. Like the people are in the cover of magazines and you go to the grocery stores, you cannot unsee the story. And I was just thinking, like, that's when I started to get really disillusioned and really just like upset like your coworker upset of like this world is like, I can't believe it. You know, I can't believe this is happening. And then, like, I didn't know until later that, like, oh, and I, you know, calmed down, and I was like, oh, this happens all the time.
Since the beginning of
They
time.
call it kabuki theater.
Right.
It's not real.
Yes.
Everything's not real. It's just for politicians to look at. And, like, honestly, that, like, paying attention to the Kavanaugh thing was the first time I've ever seen people like Cory Booker and Kamala Harris perform.
Yes.
You know, in front of the camera. And it really... And I remember those faces too. Like, those were the first time I've seen those faces, and then I always see those faces come in and out. And, like, you know, Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg. Like, like that was the era. Like, around that Kavanaugh time, they were trying to build their, like, players. Yeah. And then, that's when it got really intense for me until, like, you know, it got crazy with 2020 and then the COVID. Oh my goodness.
It's also sucks during that time because it was what I perceived as my side doing me wrong, like lying to me, and like I just felt very like I didn't relate to this. Like I could not. Phil, stop saying that you shouldn't take my word as anything because I'm just a guy. He started saying, like, you should listen to me because I'm so important and influential. And the whole Kavanaugh thing, I didn't know what to think until there was, I wish I could find the story, but I don't remember this man's name. He got canceled for doing something, I think in Portland or something. I think BLM and all the social justice type people canceled him for something very, very benign. I don't think he was out of line at all in doing anything. It wasn't even as bad as that. I think the bakery that didn't want to like write like gay marriage or whatever on a cake. It wasn't even that bad. I remember it was like something small, and he got canceled to like a really high degree where in order to afford legal funding, I think they put up like a GoFundMe or something, and then they like banned that too. But it was such a smaller event that he wasn't as big as like other people that were getting canceled at the time, so he kind of got ignored by a lot of people. And it came out one day that he had committed suicide because he was backed into such a corner, being accused of doing something he never did, and or something like that. And then he lost his job, so he couldn't pay for anything. His GoFundMe
got taken down.
His own friends and family didn't want to stick by him, so he was like basically basically homeless, I think. He got kicked out of his the place that he lived. So like he was backed so much into a corner that this man who never had a trial or didn't do it, he felt like and it didn't seem like he was very not well adjusted. He seems like someone who, like, I remember what it was. He was caught on camera say at like a Trump rally or something.
That's it?
Yeah, he was outed to be like a MAGA in Portland or something.
Oh, in Portland.
Well, yeah. And then he got canceled to oblivion, and to the point where he committed suicide. And I felt so mad after that I knew that this person is going to disappear into obscurity, and like no one cares. Every single person was just using this story for whatever, and I just felt like this is disgusting. But I could never get as red-pilled as like being like, oh, I'm super duper conservative again because of like where we came from before. If anything, we just became really, really center left, actually, which is why I liked listening to Tim Pool. And then 2020 happened. 2020 to now.
You changed after 2020.
Yes.
You probably can't see it, but I see the change in Janet after Trailer. She's a completely different person. She was mostly the same. Even after she quit, even after you quit Disney, you were mostly the same person. Yeah. After 2020, you turned into different.
I am a lot more bitter and realistic about life now.
Bitter Janet.
I used to be such a dreamer and a naive, innocent, happy human being.
Janet used to believe in the system.
Yes.
Man.
I used to
Good
believe that
Good old days.
The Supreme Court was respectable human beings that did not let their biases get in the way of their very, very important legal decisions that
they're appointed for life. For
life. That's the reason why you don't need to have like to kowtow to political interests. And it's just like, oh, you mean I was wrong about everything? I have no hope. I think after the pandemic, and at the exact same time, I was reading Michael Malice's book on North Korea, and I would say I went from center left to like, I just don't believe in government anymore. Like, I dislike both sides. Both sides are awful shitty sides that are both very, very authoritarian. Like, now that like things are swinging the other way, I've started to see liberals and the people on the left lose power, so they're like more like, don't hurt me, and they're not very capable of influence. And then I see the right gaining more power and influence, and people like them and whatever. And I've seen people make fun of people who wear masks, and maybe like harass them in public or judge them for whatever reason. And I'm like, I'm not okay with that either. Yeah. How about you just let people do what they want to do?
You can't find a couple more annoyed with masks than us.
Yes.
But it's not like we're gonna force people or hate people or like shit on people who just want to feel comfortable with masks. Like, whatever, dude, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, do whatever you gotta do. Just don't tell me what to do. That's it. Yeah. But then the fact that like people are judging people who still feel comfortable wearing masks, I'm just like, you're the same.
You're the same.
You're exactly the same as the behavior that I don't like from the other side. It's just really annoying.
With government and cops too, the riots made me.
Our view on cops was really funny.
Yeah.
Because like when it was like this. It was starting to get really, really popular to defund the police. Like, yes. Defund the police, all that stuff.
Growing up, yes.
Well, no. It was like, I mean, like, it really reached its fever pitch, right? Around 2019, right. 2020. Okay. Yeah. Like, it was really, like, becoming super popular, ACAB, all that stuff.
Yes.
And then what was happening to like, people were randomly, like, sticking needles and pins in cops' food and, like, brutally, like, assaulting them, with... like from behind, like just out of nowhere or whatever. Yeah. And then we were like, that's not cool. Yeah. That's not right to do. Yeah. And all this stuff. And then all this like fuck the police shit was really like getting really crazy, and we were like not down for it. We were really, really, really not down for it. And then you know what happened? COVID happened.
Yes.
And you know what happened with COVID? When things started loosening up and some restaurants and some establishments wanted to just like be and make money because they have like mouths to feed.
Yeah.
Some fucking states were like, no, you can't fucking do that. We're gonna fucking tell our police to shut you fucking down, and you're not gonna be able to do business, and you're gonna fucking starve because that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Am I exaggerating?
No, and then they're doing it, and if you say like, how dare you, they go like, I'm just following orders. I'm like, fuck you.
Then we were like, ACAB.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit, man. Fuck you, man.
Leave people alone.
Yeah. What the hell, dude? Like these, like how are you? Like so many of our favorite businesses just went under because of that type of behavior.
Yes.
And then now, like even like for the longest time, they like kept this like a lot of restaurants kept this like Gestapo like attitude towards like being a good vaccinated member and like wearing your mask and all that shit. And it's just like Jesus Christ. And then, like, you know, like, involving the police when and as if they could do anything. As if they could do that. It's ridiculous.
It's just, like, so, like, because we grew up very anti-police. Like, you know, you're very punk rock.
Yeah. But then you see, like, oh, they're human beings, too, and they get brutally whatever.
Like,
but then you see them do shit to other human beings, and you're like, fuck that shit then, man.
During the riots and during all the when police were the most sympathetic, when people were just being really like the height of the ACAB movement.
Before the Democrats were like, oh shit, this like actually is a net negative for us.
Yes.
Never mind.
Never mind. When that was happening, I was like, you know, it takes a lot for you to get me to empathize with cops.
Yeah,
but
like, I can't believe like that happened. You like you made us do that.
You're doing it.
But leave it to the cops. Leave it to the cops to disappoint us.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, you don't deserve any of my sympathy. Thank you for reminding me. And especially like reading Michael Malice's book, and this is like based on like true history, and like if you read any kind of authoritarian history of, I don't know,
China, North Korea, Russia,
like anywhere, you will understand what he says. Like, cops are criminals because there's nothing people won't do for power, including the worst of crimes, including like hurting children, like just to get some kind of selfish gain out of it. And a lot of people who are I guess like young Janet would be like, oh, that's really pessimistic, that's not true. But from what I've seen in the past 2 years, and from learning of what cops have done in history books, you might think like, oh, those are history books. That's not that long ago. Some of these instances are not that long ago, and they're no different than you or me. We're all humans. We all come from the same human race. If they're capable of it, what makes you think people who live today are not capable of that?
Doing it again.
Yeah, in the same exact position. And I don't believe people, like, I always had a problem with authority, and I just don't believe people who have power over other people are not going to abuse it at once. Like, some people might not, but I highly believe most of them do. So the people I relate most to now are people like, for me, Michael Malice. But I would not go so far as to call myself an anarchist, because I don't know. I don't know what that entails. And I don't know. I also don't believe it's practical. I think romantically speaking, that's what I am, probably. But like, I might even call myself apolitical. Like, I just don't care that much anymore, because I don't believe I can do anything about anything.
You pay attention to it. We pay attention like it's a TV show. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know what's happening. What's happening next? Oh, what's happening today? Oh, no, it's a slow news day.
Right. For you, it was like Dave Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just as middle of the road as you could get.
Yeah.
Like, seeing Dave on Tim's podcast was pretty dope. I was like, yes. But like, I think one thing I like it's like what you said. Like I don't like I get down with the whole yeah man fuck the government. In fact, fuck all governments. But then at the same time, it's just like realistically though,
Yes.
we're gonna have to have something.
Yes, I don't know. This is why we should never go into government. This is why we do not want to go into politics. This is why we only talk about it in terms of culture and what we do know, like movies.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why we've come to this conclusion of like we don't want our creators, our favorite creators, people who make movies, people who make YouTube videos or whatever, I don't want them to be like moralizing is because we're finally at this place of like, you know what, all this sucks. And I just want art and content and stories to take me out of the suffering of living, not to like manipulate me and to root for your side. As things are swinging the other direction, what I'm seeing is just a lot of the same exact behavior coming from the right as it is coming from the left. When I was like they're being just as like ideologically driven and like trying to manipulate their art and their culture and to influence people in that way, and it just feels gross. I don't like it either. And especially with the whole like don't say gay stuff that happened with Disney and all that stuff, I just feel like there's this huge like we can't be the only ones, and we're not the only ones who just want our content and our creators, our artists, our storytellers to stay politically neutral, because I don't care. And a lot of the times I think the Daily Wire should make movies like Failsafe, because that's what they're
or Doctor Strangelove.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think you write what you know, and I think you know that pretty darn well, so maybe you should write that.
A good political thriller or satire.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, unless like everybody has their particular talent at writing stories. Some people are great at writing love stories. Some people are great at comedies, at horror movie, at whatever. I don't think people who are great at love stories need to make a political love story, because they might not be great at political stories. Whereas like I'm not like, if you want to make political stories, then make political stories. I'm not telling you what to do, but like I don't think everyone are political storytellers. You know what I mean? I think it's just not. It's making people's true intentions and like better messages harder to stomach. And it made it really hard for me to continue, like, all that stuff that was happening in 2019 at Disney made it really, really hard for me to work. So, what are we recommending?
We are recommending Everything Everywhere All at Once, the new A24 film.
Yes.
With Michelle Yeoh.
It is a movie about this middle-aged Asian American woman dealing with a midlife crisis, but in a very comic booky multiverse kind of way, where she has different hers coming at her, and she is the one her that can save the world, her world. It's a trippy movie. I really liked it, not because it's an Asian cast. I always think that when an Asian American reviews an Asian American film, I always wonder, like, is it because it's an Asian film, or is it actually good? I genuinely believe it's actually good, not because it's an Asian American film. And it's pretty not political, other than the fact that the daughter's gay, and I don't think that was handled very well. But we'll go watch it. If you like this episode, like, subscribe, jingle all our buttons, and check out these other episodes to binge all our other episodes, and we will see you next time.
Bye!